What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Robert Linkle with trainingtheolderadult.com. Welcome back here to the bunker. Got my buddy Whiskey in here. We are hanging out and we are talking low impact, high intensity interval training. Workouts that are good for achy joints. This is written by Lauren Bedowski. This was in July of 2022. And it features a colleague of mine, Alyssa. I will throw the link to her website in the description of this this video if you haven't seen or followed her. She has a great social media, really gives out some very good information for training older adults. And she was on, let's see, the first free education week that we did in the pandemic. She was one of my guest speakers and we did a whole hour together, and she showed some home exercises and some really great stuff. So you could go check that out. It's on the YouTube channel, again, a couple of years ago, but really, really good. Okay, so let's talk HIIT training, okay? The point of this article is discussing the benefits of high intensity interval training for older bodies. And if you have achy joints, disabilities, diseases, anything along those lines, is this of benefit, right? Or is it going to hurt you? So we kind of take a look through this, and it's Lauren, right? That was her first name. Yeah, Lauren kind of utilizes Alyssa's content here a little bit to discuss this. So there are many proven benefits to HIIT, high intensity interval training. Alternating short bursts of vigorous exercise and brief recovery periods can help you build strength and fitness in climbing stairs, playing sport, and keeping pace with your grandkids. This is all accurate and all true, and it does have a very good carryover effect to real life activities. There's also evidence that HIIT can help older adults improve their mental health, boost memory, and even reduce symptoms of depression. All true. It also helps with their sleep recovery, their digestion, all their hormonal responses, their mental capacity, the quickness and the sharpness of their mindset. The list and the benefits of exercise, period, go, I mean, 30-fold. I mean, there's so many benefits, but to implement higher intensity bouts, there's even more to add into that, okay? One of the greater concerns, this is a little bit of a tangent, but one of the greater concerns that I've come across working with older populations is the lack or the limited, the lack of hydration. The dehydration levels in older adults are very, very high. And I found this to be for a couple of reasons. Number one, there's a few medications, I won't name them, but there are some out there. I don't want to get in trouble by throwing something under the bus and then I get sued because I talked about this, but it's in the description, okay, that it not only causes a dry mouth, but it also increases dehydration, and there's multiple of them, okay, and they are very common medications that a large number of people are on, and it's probably one of the most common, or multiple of these are some of the most common medications prescribed with almost anything that's wrong with you. So like it's one of the things where they're like, oh, you have anything wrong, you should take blank, and they just push this stuff on you. And one of the big warning signs is the dry mouth and the dehydration, the level of dehydration. So number one, your medication is dehydrating you. Then number two, because, and there's just no other better way to say this, the inability to go to the restroom, or the going to the restroom too often, okay, or the problems in going to the restroom as we get older, and the accidents that might occur, all of this comes down to the idea of, well, if I just don't drink as much water or anything, I just won't have to go pee all that often. So it's almost a self-sabotage in many cases, okay? So not only are you now taking a medication that dehydrates you and dries your mouth, but you're not drinking enough water. And so the level of dehydration is so severe that you can see in older adults' skin the level of dehydration. The dry skin, the like plasticky kind of shiny appearance is like severe dehydration, the thinness, etc. I understand that as you age, your skin is going to get thinner. I'm not saying that that's not going to occur or that your skin won't get more frail, right? What I am saying though is there's levels to that. And in the majority of individuals that I see taking these medications, again, I'm just speaking anecdotally, my personal experiences, all very, very similar in terms of how severely dehydrated they are and the negative return it has on their skin. And then if you don't have that hydration level in your body, you can't perform on this, you can't think clearly, you can't sleep clearly, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's all just a big funnel that kind of leads towards disaster. So long story and a big rant, excuse me, but a long story short is yes, high intensity interval training, HIIT training, very beneficial across the board. But if we're not putting enough fluid and fuel into our body, it doesn't really matter, okay? So that's a big precursor to this is like, yeah, HIIT training is awesome. You should do it. However, we got to drink. You got to eat well, eat and drink like a grown-up. These are the concerns, okay? However, many people associate HIIT with extreme boot camp classes or high impact cardio sessions, including movements like jumping, burpees, box jumps, bounds, plyos, Olympic lifts, running and obstacles and speed ladders and stuff like that. It's all in the mindset of like, oh, there's boot camp. Oh, there's fat camps or extreme fat loss camps. There's going into the academies, into the police and all this and that. They have these courses that are designed to do the title, right? But that doesn't mean that like the average individual or the older adult needs to go and participate in those. It's just a thing that is out there, but our minds go high intensity. Oh, you mean like boot camp? Oh, you mean like the police department? Oh, you mean like folks who are here to lose double their body weight, or not double, but half of their body weight, right? Like they weigh twice as much as they should. That kind of mindset, those extreme camps and such, it's not what we're talking about. We are talking about spikes and recoveries, and creating a little heartbeat effect, right? As you kind of go through this, that's the idea of higher intensities and intervals of your training. All right. And then there are, there are a ton of exercises that are safe for your joints. The exercises you can include in high intensity interval training, says Elisa Kuhn. This is my friend Elisa. She's a physical therapist in Salt Lake City. Keep the adventure alive. She's awesome. Again, you'll love her social media. She's got great stuff on there. Very, very cool. Even if your joints ache from arthritis or you're worried about injuries, you can still reap the benefits from HIIT training by performing low impact exercises. And then she shows you some. So yes, great benefit from HIIT, but I want to discuss a version of HIIT, something different, but very similar, that's called HIRT, high intensity resistance training, okay? HIRT, high intensity resistance training, which is pretty much the same thing, you're just adding load. Most HIIT classes, high intensity interval classes, are going to incorporate a ton of body weight and or very light weights, like a battling rope, a medicine ball, a sand bell, something that, is, 10 pounds or less, or something of that nature. Not really heavy, something that can be moved quickly, but it's still a challenge. You're pushing sleds, you're pulling sleds, you're getting on the skier, you're doing the air bike, you're doing a regular bike, you're running up hills, you're doing battling ropes, you're doing inertial waves, you're doing cardiovascular movements that are gonna challenge you and your heart rate and your breathing first, and then the muscular effort of moving load second. Where with resistance training, the resistance is the huge priority. It's like, I have to lift this through range. And now that I'm challenging myself with that and I'm pushing the tempo, now my cardio is now being affected, right? Where with HIIT training, it's kind of the other way around. We're not going to move a lot of load, or if not any load, it's just our body weight, but we're going to move it pretty fast and pretty consistently and pretty intensely and try to spike our heart rate, and get it really high, and then let it recover a little bit, and then spike it again and let it recover, and spike it again and let it recover. And the body's effort is like, I'll go pretty hard, if not as hard as I can, for these bouts, but in a short 15 to 20 minute workout is what Alyssa's talking about here, okay? And the benefits to that are great. The safety component to that, like she says here, is Just pick exercises that are either low impact or that you have mastered and you do well. And yes, that can include resistance. That's the one piece we're missing here. And it's not missing from the article necessarily, just I'm adding to it because this isn't an article about HIRT training. It's about HIIT training, which is a thing all on its own. But I feel like specifically for the older adult, which there is great research. I've seen at least 3 articles, if not 100 more, okay? But 3 that specifically focus on the idea of high intensity resistance training and the benefits for older adults. Like that is literally in the titles, and the research supports that directly. And then there's probably another 97 plus articles that look at HIRT training and they're like, oh, by the way, it does affect, older bodies and aging bodies extremely well also. So this is one of those things of like, this is great. And here's another option that I think can be even more beneficial. And when she discusses the whole idea of like lower impact exercises, lower impact, but still can be very challenging. Okay. Squat with a press, a hinge with a high pull, a hinge with a row, a split squat to an overhead, a split squat to a row, like complex kind of dynamic movements where a squat with a medicine ball chest pass and someone throws it back, a hinge with a vertical toss, let it hit the ground, pick it up, throw it again. But instead of throwing a 4-pound med ball, 30 feet in the air, throw a 20-pound med ball 8 feet in the air, something like that, where you're like, dude, I am moving a heavy load. This is very, very challenging. This is very difficult. And I'm going to go for this bout and then I'm going to recover. And I'm going to go for a bout and then I'm going to recover. And so it's kind of the same idea as HIIT. We're just going to add load and maybe not be able to work as intensely, but still work pretty intensely. Okay. And then the question comes down to, well, will my limitations be negatively affected by this style of training? The research says no. The research says that, and everything that I've experienced with my clientele over the last 20 plus years of training HIRT, okay, which I freely admit, prior to like 2015 or something like that, I didn't know of the acronym HIRT, high intensity resistance training. I didn't know that existed, but I've been doing it, okay? I looked at HIIT training and I'm like, I want to do that. I'm just going to add load and I'm going to lift my clients in that format. And I started that in like 2004, if not a little bit earlier as a thrower. We were already doing that in high school. And when I started coaching people in 1999 for the first time, I kind of did what I was doing in high school with them. I didn't know how to train. I had no idea. So I was just doing as my terrible manager told me at the time. He's like, here's your polo shirt. You look the part, go and train. And I was like, I don't know how to train. And he's like, do what you do. And I'm like, with everybody? And he's like, yeah, just go make us money. Go on, go make us money. And I said, okay, do I have to do like a intake or paperwork? And he's like, they already signed that at the front. Just go train them. Okay, shouldn't I know like a little stuff? Nah, you'll be fine. Just, you're overthinking this. Go train them. And I'm like, all right, mother of 3 with a rotator cuff issue. We're doing snatches and chin-ups, and we're going to bench press, and we're going to back squat, and we're going to do deadlifts, and we're going to do kettlebell swings. And, you've never done any of those things, and I'm going to make you do all of them in the same workout. I had no idea what I was doing. I'm like, well, that's what I do. So here we go. Box jumps and depth jumps and bounds, and then let's go deadlift. And what do you think happened? Yeah, I didn't keep my clients, number 1. Pretty sure I hurt some people, number 2, right? I didn't know what I was doing. And to wrap this all the way around, because that style of training worked for me, it could have worked very well for my clients, but because I didn't know about limitations, because I didn't know how to program it properly, did those individuals I was trained, did they get better? Yes. Okay. Was it exactly what they needed? Absolutely not. Did I teach them wrong? I sure did, right? Like I should have progressed it better, this and that, but well, we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. And I had no freaking idea what I didn't know. However, I was onto something in terms of my clients did enjoy it. Like they did like the challenge. They did like moving the load around, as do my clients now. I just didn't know how to do it correctly. And so over the years, really in 2006 and 7, we really started to find our groove. And like by 2009, it was something we were known for. And people all around were coming to train this style of training with us. Like even non-members of the country club would buy day passes to come in and train because they liked the training, but they couldn't, or didn't want to become members at the country club. A lot of them didn't even live there. They would pay a day pass and drive in. Anyway, one of my long diverted stories is diverting even further. But my point is we hit our stride. And that format of training, which I thought was just HIIT training with load, was actually called and is called HIRT training and has been around for a while, and research has been done on it for a long time, okay? But this is something that we do and know well, and it benefits our clients, exceptionally well, to where you can take people that are not in shape, and within 30 to 90 days, depending on the individual, they're in pretty damn good shape. Like, they are very capable of doing a lot pretty quickly. So there's something to this. Okay. And then I do on occasion get individuals that are like, well, I just don't have gifted athlete clients like you. Like, bro, I'm not going out to the Senior Olympics and recruiting clients. I have just regular everyday folks who come in here, but they have a really good work ethic. I know exactly how to progress them, and we work really hard. And thus they become like these absolute studs who I highlight on the internet, and you're like, wow, that's impressive. But my clients can never do that. Yes, they can. You need to know how to coach them. You need to know how to progress them. You need to know how to work with their limitations and not around it. That is the key, okay? We don't see the shoulder injury and go, I got to work around the shoulder injury. I'll train everything else. Everything else will get better except for the shoulder. But boy, are they getting in shape. Boy, this is fantastic. If it wasn't for that pesky shoulder of theirs, well, that's a huge gap. I just made them worse. Their gap was like this before. Had I just improved that shoulder a little bit, then collectively that individual could have rebuilt and grown as one solid unit. But because I didn't know what to do, or I was afraid to hurt them, I didn't know what to plug in, what to progress. So I just said, forget that shoulder. I'm just going to go around it. I'll train everything else. You did them a huge disservice. And now that shoulder is so lacking and so far behind, we can't catch them up. Also, why did that person probably come to you in the first place? It was to improve their shoulder. So if you're avoiding it, skipping it, working around it, quote unquote, working around it, are you addressing the main reason they came to you, or at least one of the main reasons? No, you have to learn how to. And again, just because, hey, can you cover up? Come on, be professional. Okay, come on, be a gentleman. If you don't know, like, I'm not saying that anyone that has a limitation has to go to physical therapy first before they can work in here. You just got a weakness. You've got an area that needs to be improved. We all have that. We don't all have to go to PT first, okay? There's a scope of practice component to that. But when you look at almost the top, 10 older adult limitations, you're looking at arthritis, you're looking at carpal tunnel, you're looking at lower back, at hip, at ankle, at knee, at shoulder, and then probably heart and or cardiovascular disease. Probably the top 8 to 10 right around in there, okay? I'm sure there's something that's blaringly obvious. I'm just not thinking of it. But I would say those are probably the big things where someone's going to come in and be like, by the way, I have blank, okay? It's probably going to be one of those. And all of those things I just listed off, if you introduce resistance training, benefit, number one. If you introduce cardiovascular training, benefit number two. If you introduce higher intensity cardiovascular training, HIIT, okay, benefit number three. If you introduce high intensity resistance training, marry them together, even greater benefits number four. So all of this, it's like, here's good, and then there's great, and then there's greater, and then there's the greatest, and then there's the greatest of the greater, and then there's 5% better than that, right? It's all good. It's all great. It's all improvement. What does it all have in common? Resistance training must be a component of it. You must do it on a regular basis. You must introduce some type of overload, a challenging load. Overload doesn't mean I can deadlift 150, I'll put 200 on there, now I can't budge it. You're like, there's too heavy of a load, I've overloaded the bar. That's not what we're talking about. Overload means my 150 pound bar that I can lift 3 times, I'm going to go to 160 now, and maybe I can only lift it once or twice, but it's super challenging. I've now created an overload. I can still do it, but it's over what my norm is, 150 for 3. I can do that all the time, anytime I'm comfortable. Well, if I put on 160, this is a new load, a new challenge, right? Now my body's like, bro, we got to do something to be able to adapt and get our body to a point where we can do 160 like we were doing 150 for sets of 3. So actin and myosin get together and they're like, we got to tear and we got to rebuild and we're going to come back bigger and stronger and better than ever. And then after 2 or 3 workouts, okay, 160, I can do 3. So that overload was now adapted to by laying down more muscle fiber, and now I've got stronger handshakes of each end of my muscle binding together to be able to move that load. And after I do 160s, 160s, 160, eventually it's no longer an overload, it's just the load. And so the body's like, well, how do I improve? How do I get better? Well, you could either say 160 is very respectable and I feel good here and I just want to maintain it, then we'll keep lifting 160, okay? But I could lift 160 for sets of 5, sets of 8, sets of 10, 3 sets of 10, 3 sets of 10 with limited recovery, 3 sets of 10 with excessive recovery, 3 sets of 10 supersetted with blah, 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 right? Strip sets, teardowns, railroads, buildups, pyramids, ziggurats, you name it. There's all kinds of cool stuff we can do without going over 160 pounds and still introduce a new overload, a new stimulus. So again, extremely long story short, let me wrap it all back, is all of this can be wrapped into the idea of HIRT training, high intensity resistance training, but the foundation of the higher intensities come from HIIT. It was born through this interval mindset of, hey, we've got these intervals and it gets people very, very fit, but what if we added load to it? Would we make like the ultimate human being? And when we think of the fittest person on earth, which is literally their slogan, what do we think of? The CrossFit Games, the CrossFit athletes. And I'll tell you, they got a pretty damn good argument that they are the fittest ones on earth. They're as strong as they can be and as conditioned as they can be and as fit as they can be and as gymnastically inclined with flips and rope climbing and walking on their hands as they can be. But they're strong and they can carry and drag and, and load exceptionally well. But they're also very dynamic and they can throw things and they can bound and they can skip and they can hurl and then on the other side they can hold and brace and endure and then they can run and then they can sprint and then they can swim and then they can jump, and you're just like, this is like the decathlon of life. They're pretty damn good at everything. Then I would say you've built one of the fittest human beings on earth. And what is the foundation? What is the core of that whole pyramid I just talked about of eliteness that grows up there? Resistance training. And with higher intensities of resistance training, HIRT training, you grow an amazing athlete at any age, at any ability level, with any limitation, with any disease, with any injury, with any whatever. You can build amazing results. You can help people improve the quality of life drastically through this style of training. So I completely agree with this article. HIIT training is awesome, should not be steered away from by any means. Individuals that have limitations and they have this and that, don't worry. As long as you have a good coach, someone that's teaching you how to do it right, they're progressing you accordingly. Don't just jump into this on your own and follow an app, okay? You need a coach, especially if you have an injury, especially if you're a little bit older and you haven't trained before, you're a rookie, if you're green, don't just go diving into this. Don't underestimate the value of having another set of eyes on you. Because though you may be kinesthetically aware and you can watch somebody do something and go, I can do that and replicate it, doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing it the right way, with the right load and the right order, the right amount of recovery, etc. There's a lot that goes into this. And us coaches, I will tell you, there's levels to this game too. There are levels to personal training where you get people that are just here to make a buck, and then you got people like myself where this is our career path And we are here to take our clients to new levels, but also help develop and bring the profession along to a new height. We want to set standards. We want to help raise the bar for everybody across the board, because ultimately it only helps the consumer. Okay? We want to be able to affect as many people as possible. And I could fit, 60 people in this little gym and a dog throughout the week. And I could train those 60 people, and I do. And I have a great time doing that. But how do I help 100 people? How do I help 300 people? I work with the other trainers that are working with those folks. And I feel like I have a special knowledge and a special experience here that allows me to connect and work with a certain demographic that I can now share with other coaches that they can plug in with their people. And that's the goal, is now to reach thousands, millions of people if we can, right? And introduce this big secret of resistance training that helps improve and take people to this new ability, this new quality of life that they didn't think was possible. There's no secret. It's just hard work. Having the right coach, having the right group of people around you, plugging in the right information, and working hard. You got to want it. Step 1, you got to recognize you got a problem. Step 2, you got to be committed to fixing this problem. Step 3, you got to figure out how to go about it. That's what we're here for. If you have any questions, comment below, let me know. Hope you enjoyed the rants. I know they were a little long. That's what the rant section's about, is to hear me ramble on about this stuff. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope all is well in your world. I love and appreciate you. Thank you for the time, 25 minutes. I think you're the best. We'll talk to you soon. Again, if you need anything, comment below, hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell. You get reminded every time I put something up. Head over to trainingtheolderadult.com for more information. Thank you so much. Take care.